All right, so Ricardo,
Yeah.
Tracy,
Yep.
do you smell what the Rock is cooking?
Okay. Oh God. Really?
Jeez, you Lord, man.
Stop it. Get some
Oh
help.
my God, I had,
You
I
know,
had to, I,
thanks, Sabili, thanks.
I had to drop it. I had to drop it. Sorry. But yes, folks, at long last, we're going to talk about Michael Bay's sophomore feature film, The Rock from 1996. And for those who still don't know, one of the first entries into the Criterion Collection. Yes, folks, not one but two Michael Bay movies are in the Criterion Collection. I mean, for me, I'm a
That I didn't
huge
know.
collector of Criterion DVDs and Blu-rays. But yeah, man, The Rock is there and Armageddon. Yeah, both of those shows are in that. No, I'll say like when they were started off, right? They were like remember they looking for culturally significant films and all that kind of stuff, right? So they
Right,
picked
yeah.
those two. My argument is they should have picked Pearl Harbor. That's just me. But yeah, those two shows are there. And with the Rock Man, there's actually an essay written by the late great Roger Ebert, who actually loved the film when it first came out. I remember Gene Siskel didn't really care for it because it's an action movie and it's dumb and it's loud and it's noisy, blah, right? But Roger Ebert was like, no, the show actually like real hard. I mean, and I was actually amazed that he'd actually appreciate that, even though afterwards he kind of had this love hate relationship with these films, right? Right.
Mhm.
To kick things off, I just wanna just share my quick thoughts on Michael B and his filmography, right? So, like everyone else, I was introduced to I was introduced to Michael Bay through a little film called Bad Boys, right?
Right.
Came out in 1995. Main reason, Martin Lawrence, Will Smith.
Yeah.
Why would I not see that, right? Yes, I was too young to see it, when it came out back in 95. But I remember
Hey,
when that
TV6 was
dropped.
playing it all the time, so
I
you're
know,
safe.
I know that's how we all saw it. We all saw it, the censored version, if you will.
I saw it. I got to see it in theaters somehow in Windsor. I saw it.
Big up,
Oh,
man. Big up.
No,
but
I
they
just
snuck
like
you
we
there.
just no Stocky. We just went to like it wasn't like Windsor. We said like care though. It's like yeah, whatever. Like if they been paid enough. So I just like
Okay, okay.
my mom wanted to
Uh,
see it, and I was like, yeah, we'll split from Fresh Prince. I gotta see it. Cool.
Yeah. I think it's
Wow.
because every time I used to say 40 years is over, I used to get intimidated. Like I used to think,
Yeah.
oh, if you're not 40, they'll kick you out.
Nah. If it was 18, then they draw the line. But like
Right.
14 is fine. It's fine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So same
Yeah.
thing with me and the Rock. Like I didn't see the Rock till they show it on Channel 2 and 13.
Right.
That's where they show it, right? Not TV6, Channel 2, right? And then later on, I would see it on USC. I'll bring that up later on, and then
Right.
eventually I would see it the way it's supposed to be seen, right? Blah, right? But yeah, so when Bad Boys came out back then, it's like okay, big deal. I mean, Martin, Will Smith, they in an action movie, okay? And eventually I did see it on TV6, like I said, and I thought it was awesome. Like you know what I mean? I actually own that and Bad Boys 2 on Blu-ray. Like I have the combo set thing for that, right? On Blu-ray. And those are the only two Michael Bay movies that I own at the moment, right? So yeah, and then the next year The Rock came out. I remember the trailers fit like very, very vividly. I remember those being on TV, just on heavy rotation, and I was just excited at the idea of seeing Sean Connery, the late great Sean Connery, right,
Right.
in an action movie, right? And this is me growing up seeing him in stuff like Highlander 2, right, and Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves, and Rising Sun, Kids Actually Parents, right? It'll be
Right.
movies like that. Now, it's only years later on I'll
Good
watch,
stuff.
his Bond films, and I would say honestly, we could debate this afterwards. He is still my favorite James Bond. He is, like his record in terms of just consistency in with his films,
Yeah.
just heavy. Like we like Roger and Pierce Brosnan and
Right.
what's this other guy Craig
Dalton.
Timothy Dalton to extent, and
Yeah.
you know what I mean. They always had like the hits and misses though, but I felt with Sean Connery it was just mostly consistent dread. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I
Right,
mean he
right.
was
I'll
just
say,
the
I'll say,
architect for the character, so I
yeah,
just
the
love
only,
that.
the only, the only Sean Connery film that worked for me is the last one, and just because he came back after so much time. That's it. But like,
Oh
yeah,
yeah, Never Seen Never Again, which
yeah, never seen it.
I
That was
honestly have
more. That
never
was a
seen.
weird comedy-ish kind of.
Yeah, just
I was like,
it's not
what is
bad.
that for?
It's not bad, but it doesn't work. I think it's just because it's just him and his aesthetic as a Bond.
Yeah.
Yeah, whatever. speaking of Bond, there is a couple fan theories around this film that this
Uh-huh.
character he's playing is James Bond. That's a fan theory.
Right.
You
There's a
know,
popular, very popular
because
fan theory.
all right,
If
because
you didn't
when
say
they
that,
bring up SAS agent and
Right,
1962, but remember
right,
1962 was when Dr. No came out. I was like,
right.
okay,
And he
let's,
does. They
switch
and
up
they
with
say
this.
the workers they disavow him because he
Yes,
right exactly.
oh, that just
And,
makes a whole different kind of thing.
right, exactly. Oh, and here's another fan theory that this is okay. So this is like so some people say this is a sequel to a James Bond story, but it's also a prequel to National Treasure.
Yes, this was what I was thinking.
yes,
This is what
yes,
I was
yes,
thinking when I
yes.
So
yes.
it's only and he ended and he ended because of what he stole and the
Yeah.
nature of National
Yeah.
Treasure as this counter narrative stuff to history. And like
Mhm.
because National Treasure, here's the thing with this character. That last scene is so weird. Like it feels like a completely different character. Like, wait, he just got married, but why in the car like that? He's not like a big scientist and important, and like you wouldn't get like just the military to just drop him and check the thing or whatever it is.
Mm.
Like, yeah, you see what the point? Like, not
Yeah,
simple
yeah.
like that. Like, you know,
Like,
just go.
well, I know we
Well,
jumping the gun here, but it kind of feels like it's just, oh well, before we go to Maui or whatever it is for honeymoon,
right,
let me just go in that one church in Kansas and
right. You tell him, right?
just
Yeah,
steal this thing and run. You know what I mean? Just
yeah,
because
Once,
we married and we all energetic and we all like,
right,
yeah, you know what I mean? Yeah. But
right.
once
anyway,
he
so
opened up
what?
that piece of paper. No, I'm saying once he opened up that piece of paper and started to read to himself with that,
Yeah,
that is where I was like, yeah,
the
okay,
microfilm,
yeah,
microfilm.
yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Exactly.
Right.
Right.
No,
So,
no.
So
Before that, when Sean's character gave him shook his hand or something like that and gave him that little piece of paper that told him the
right,
church
right.
and everything. I was looking at that and watching. I was like, okay, okay. So that legitimately was one of my thoughts as well.
Yeah,
right,
yeah.
right. Okay. Well, I don't want to say too long on the whole Michael Bay stuff, right? So, yeah. So honestly, I have not seen. I never saw any of his films at that time in theaters, right? There was one in particular that I could have seen, but as my mind started to grow and I started to be aware that I mean, not every movie that shows in theaters or is called a summer blockbuster is good. You know what I mean? That's why I kind of skipped out on Armageddon, because when it came out, I just heard through the grapevine of how bad it was, right? And I'll confess something. I actually avoided sorry, I actually took a longer while to see this movie than everybody else. 'Cause I know people had to see it because it was that Aerosmith song, and it was Bruce Willis and Ben Affleck and Liv Tyler and all that kind of stuff. It took me years to actually watch that movie. And in preparation for this review here, I actually recapped it. And
Right.
I kind of sort of hate this movie actually.
Which one?
Reason
Wow.
being is because sorry Tracy, it is so bafflingly stupid, right? And
Yeah.
I could, right, shut my brain off and say, okay, it's just a dumb, mindless summer blockbuster movie.
Right.
But sorry, 2 years ago we had Independence Day, Dread. That was dumb, but there was logic to it. When you're telling me that, okay, you have okay, so we have the possibility of astronauts, drilling a bomb into
Right.
an asteroid, right?
Right.
But the question everybody asks is, so why did they just send astronauts? Why you had to
Yes,
send
true.
these oil drillers to do it?
Yeah.
Okay, that's one. And then when they actually reach on the asteroid, and this thing's supposed to be moving towards Earth, why it look like a planet, and
Yeah.
everybody just kind of walking on it instead of
Yeah.
there's no
It's
gravity involved in this.
yeah, yeah.
And it's moments like this that just run me up a wall, Dre. Like, okay,
Here's the
I
thing,
know we doing dumb summer blockbuster stuff, Dre, but come on, man. Don't be insulting people intelligence, Dre. Come on, man.
I
And no
remember.
amount of, well, last thing, and no amount of flashy visuals and explosions and don't want to miss a thing.
Yeah.
None of that. Sorry.
Nah,
You could
nah.
throw all that in front of me. If your story is trash,
Yeah.
I can't buy it.
I always thought Armageddon was dumb. I saw it in theaters. Thought it was dumb then. Still think it dumb now. I have a friend who just defend this movie to hell and high water because like my favorite 90s action movie is a trope between True Lies and
Ooh, well done.
Face Off, right? My
Good choices. Mhm.
like my two does battle over each other. True Lies probably take the slight edge, but like I like both of them really, really high. But he does well rate this one.
I love the storytelling in True Lies. One
Yeah,
thing
yeah,
I would say though, like as in terms of like 90s action movies, I love that James Cameron was like, you know what, let me take a little time and let the story flow now. Like let me not just hit you with action. Let me take a little time now. And I love that about the movie. we have comedic moments, little drama moments, and we'll still give it the goods. That's what I love about True Lies. Yeah, go on.
Yeah. But that's the thing with it is that Armageddon was one of these films that was a big blow up for him, right? To be honest, right? But it was. This is when he really kind of come into his own as the Bayisms, all the shots and slow,
really quick editing,
slow
angle shots,
helicopter
rotors. It's all in this movie, boy,
Yeah.
and it's so annoying when you watch it in retrospect.
Right.
Knowing what you know about him now, you know.
Yeah. So I don't know. I mean, to looking at The Rock in the context of his films, especially post Transformers, because he basically did way too many of those Transformers films. He should have stopped at 3. It is interesting to watch The Rock and how it plays out, right? Because it's when I give it a rewatch just for this, I was like, this was smarter than I remembered. It's still dumb. It's still a dumb movie in many ways.
Oh, it is.
But it have stuff in it. I was like, this not so bad.
Yeah.
Like it's not that bad. And what I completely forget about this movie is the who's who of character actors that was in this. It's a cavalcade of them.
For that.
Yeah.
When I saw Tony Todd, I'm like,
Tony Todd, yeah. Tony Todd it is. John C. McCleley, it's like, he did this. That fellow, this black fellow, another black fellow, the other black fellow who died, who got who they killed, who was trying to snipe and Sean Connery killed at the end.
Bokeem Woodbine.
Yes, he did this.
Remember that name.
Yeah, right. So just continue the filmography quickly, right? Another show that I actually confess I did not see until prepping for this review is Pearl Harbor, because even back in 2000 when I was hearing it was overly long, it was boring, it was just a bad movie now. But I would say something like just watching it for the first time in my life, I could understand the criticisms, and no, it is not a good show at all, right? It is way too long for its own good. You could have shaved off a whole hour out of it. And I can't really forgive how they change up, certain historical aspects. That like, the Japanese were firing at medical personnel when they were running the streets. Like, no, but you want to have a cool action scene, right?
Right.
But clearly, it was Michael Bay trying to do Titanic. That's what it was. That's what it was.
It's a movie I remember at the time really hating. I just had no patience for it. Did it come out after or before 9/11? It came out right before 9/11, right?
I think so, yeah.
Right.
Oh, and I forgot to mention too, that whole love triangle thing with Ben Affleck and Kate Beckinsale, Josh Hartnett, terrible. They could have put more of Cuba Gooding Jr. in the movie. Like, where was he?
Yeah. The movie didn't work. Yeah. I remember just being so kind of borderline offended by the film, to be honest. It is something that just don't work at all. And the big problem was the historical accuracy. It just come across as incredibly tasteless for what they try to do now. And like, I get what you're trying to go for, but it doesn't work at all. It really didn't work. All it have people who defend this movie. And they give decent defenses, but like, nah. I think that's a big sticking point for me.
Yeah, but no lie though, the attack itself was kind of awesome. It's kind of awesome. It looked great.
Yeah.
Sound design, visuals, work, right? But just everything else around it, no. So my first movie that I saw from Michael Bay was Bad Boys 2, which is still one of my favorite guilty pleasure movies of all time. Yes, it is overly long. Yes, it is dumb. Yes, it's just excess. Cool, but how can I describe this movie? It's one of those movies that you could have 2 hours of sleep trade, or you could be tossing in your bed, and if it's on TV, it will keep you up throughout this 2.5 hour runtime. There's so much energy, it just bursts, it's just like overflowing. There's no way you can watch a movie and be bored by it unless you just hate everything from Michael Bay, right?
This is another movie that again is what so in this case it was one of these films that is just a younger version of me like it and have fun with it, but boy, this thing don't hold up at all. Like, it's just
true.
Look back at it, it's like what?
Yeah. It's very nostalgia heavy. Like, if you were there in 2003, if you listen to the soundtrack, which slaps, by the way, you'll be like,
shake your tail feather.
Yeah, shake your tail feather. You'd love this show, right? I remember skipping on the island because I heard about how bad it was, but I saw it some years ago, and I was like, well,
is that the DiCaprio one?
Sorry,
is that
the island? Is that the DiCaprio one?
No, that's the one.
No, that's
Shutter Island you're talking about.
Oh
So
god.
the
Okay.
island is with his
Ewan
clone.
McGregor, Scarlett
Ewan McGregor,
Johansson.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah. It had
Nah.
this
Like, he,
fellow.
he was going for this like dystopian
Right.
story,
It's a
but like
sci-fi. Yeah.
halfway into the movie. No, sorry, it's
Oh
like
well done.
half dystopian and then other half is car chases and explosions, right? So that was the problem. It's just the
I think
tone out with
it
that.
Yeah, I'm out.
Yeah.
yeah. It was Scarlett Johansson. Was it Michael Clark Duncan?
Yeah.
It's a
Um,
it's a decent extended Twilight Zone episode. But it's not half bad for what it's trying to do. And
yeah.
I don't remember hating it. And I was just thinking, oh, it's a Michael Bay film. All right, that's why I went to see it. But it just kind of came and went for a lot of people. So
Yeah,
most
yeah.
people don't
Even
remember.
even B fans and all kind of
Right.
forget about this movie, to be honest, right?
Yeah.
And then 2007 happened,
Yep.
Transformers happened. I never forget see this opening day in
Yep.
CC.
I
Well, I'll say quickly, right? Loving every transformation. This is one of the movies that every transformation, literally, people were making noise and going, "Boy!" You know what I
Yeah.
mean? But I just like, don't get me wrong, right? It's not a great movie. It's not no masterpiece, right?
right.
But I felt in terms of I would say that this is the movie that Michael Bay was born to direct. It is
Really.
big, it is loud, it is in your face, but it was tons of fun, Jed. And
Yeah.
we just got to see our favorite Transformers just
Yeah,
on live action. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it just hit that right nerve for me when I saw it back then.
Right. I remember having an argument with my cousin that how they will never make a Transformers movie, right? Because it'll be too expensive, right? It'll be impossible. They can never pull it off. And yeah, at the time, it was logical to say that because like you needed really cutting edge special effects. The first Transformers is a marvel of a technical marvel. Period.
It is.
Yeah, and
Like, just the
I
transformations
yeah,
alone felt
and
logistic. That's what I love about it.
I was so like impressed with just everything they did, except for the actual character designs. But I
Okay.
kind of
Oh,
follow
the faces, like, yeah, the
spiky,
faces.
spikiness, and then I
Uh,
had a big problem with Optimus mouth. Optimus having a
yeah,
mouth. No, sorry, I don't know
yeah.
why they did that. But for the most part, it got a lot right. And I still think is the first movie kind of holds up for me for the most part.
It does, yeah.
It,
And
it here's why
it
here's
still
why it
remains
works.
it still remains my one
Right.
of my favorite. I would say my favorite PG-13
Right.
Michael Bay movie. Hands
Yeah,
down.
why it works kind of because they had the set pieces smarter. Like one of the big problems with the sequels, one of my big problems with the sequels is that the action sucks. That's kind of the problem. The set piece is not that interesting. It's just noisy and chaotic. But
Yep.
none of the set pieces actually interesting, or you're not seeing what's going on. Whilst in the first film, it had some pretty good set pieces that I enjoyed, like that. You see the guy rollerblading in the highway, and
Oh,
then
I love that.
that looked great.
Yeah.
Or like that Starscream transforming into a jet,
Yeah.
taking out another
Yeah,
jet, transforming into a
love
jet.
that.
Shit like that. Like you needed these little clever set pieces to do stuff with, and they never really did that. With the sequels, the sequels hardly had fights that I enjoyed, except for one or two. Most of it sucked. Like that's the problem with it. But yeah, the first Transformers works. I
Yeah.
defend it. It's dumb. I'm not trying to defend it on this level, but for the most part, they got it right. I thought they got it right. I defend it.
Yeah, totally agree. I defend it too. And just to get this out of the way, guys, the four sequels that came after it sucked though, and it just got
Yeah, no, I was
worse
out.
and worse and worse. Like,
Yeah.
I remember when Revenge of the Fallen came on, and it was fun to laugh at the Michael Bay movie. Like, that movie sucked. You know what I mean? But yeah, when you really look at it, though, it was bad. And then when Dark the Moon came out, I remember how excited we were by just the trailer. Like, the trailer is still one of the best I've seen of a Michael Bay product trailer. And then when you see it, it's like, wait, that's it? You know what I mean? That's it? He took a little break. He did Pain and Gain, which I remember seeing in theaters, and which for the most part I
liked.
Kind of liked. But but is the funny thing is, like, when you learn about the real story, you're like, well, oh gosh, man, like, really, like, you make all these changes, Dre, like, oh gosh, it was worse than this, Dre, but what are you trying to do here, Dre? And I remember specifically hating Mark Wahlberg's character. Like, I find he was just such an asshole in that show. But other than that, though, I like that it was be returning to the R-rated roots now.
Right.
That's the reason why I enjoyed it so much. We got actually a really cool performance from Dwayne Johnson, aka Rock, right? Anthony Mackie was in it, and I just kind of like the fact that it wasn't about big gunfights, or robots destroying themselves. It was just these two scummy guys who just want to make money, right? So that was cool.
Why it works so well is that, from what I understand, it's supposed to be based on a true story, right? Or
it is.
Somewhat loosely based on a. But what was brilliant about it is that Bay's aesthetic like overlap with it so well.
Yeah.
And it's shocking now. Like, wait, this like real fit given the story and supposed to be a true story. It kind of reminds me of
it's the whole excess thing. Like, it
reminded me of Yeah, it reminded me of Spring Breakers a little bit. Like it had that going,
Yes, yes,
that
yes.
same,
Okay.
Spring
that
Breakers
same,
is a infinitely better movie, by the way. So yeah.
right. But you're indulgent, but you're also looking from the outside, and there's this kind of mix of you're indulgent in the aesthetic at the same time. Your commentary on this aesthetic is a good balance now. You know, you get have your cake and eat it too. And Pain Again did that. And I was like, oh, this is over the top and ridiculous, but telling a real interesting story here.
Mm-hmm.
You know, about excess, right? Yeah.
Yeah, correct. Yeah, yeah. A year afterwards, he gave us Age of Extinction. Ricardo, you know, we've talked about this before.
Right.
I would just say this in a nutshell, right? The show runs 45 minutes too long, Jed, right? And in that 45 minutes, I remember when I rewatched it now for another film I'll get into, I remember like my brain just like passed out, Jed. I was just
Yeah.
like, you know what? I
This,
don't really care right now. I see an Optimus on top of a Dinobot. I don't really care. Just
yeah.
just
No,
throw away one
right. So
hand. I just want this movie to end. Just end, please.
this
Stop. I
this
done.
is
I done.
yeah. This is when this is the Michael Bay film that broke me in a sense, right? And what I meant by
Oh,
that, I
you waited
remember.
that long?
Yeah, no, listen, I'm surprised because he should have.
No,
I
no,
still,
no. The
I
movie
still,
breaks you. It
yeah, no,
does. You just you just
Listen.
lose it afterwards.
no,
Man.
I was out for some
yeah,
time, and then I decided to still watch the trailer, and was that Sir Anthony Hopkins? I was like, not even Sir Anthony Hopkins
No, no,
narrating
no, no,
this
no,
can
no.
bring me back.
We don't get. No, no.
I,
That's the
I,
last night.
I,
that's
We're
the
gonna get to
last
that.
night.
We're gonna get
like,
to that.
like,
Yeah, we're
That's to
gonna
tell
get
you,
to
I
that.
have been so out of
no,
anything
right.
concerning
So
those.
I remember seeing this in theaters, right? And it have this one moment in the film. It's okay. It have two moments in the film. Well, it have
Oh,
three
I
or
know
four.
this story.
But the yes. So the Optimus somehow magically repairs himself just so. Like, wait, he can repair
Oh
himself
wow.
before? Whatever. And it's supposed to be this big moment in the movie. And I just watch it like it's kind of dumb. And it had this guy about 2 rows beneath me. This man, I don't know, he probably drunk, probably about 4 star himself already in the morning because it was IMAX like 10 a.m. It was really early. Like I had to go in for a review, right? And I was like, this man just like yelling at the top of his lungs, boy, that's what we talking about. And I was like, okay, well, that's a day though. Like, you win, Michael Bay. You have won. Checkmate. I have lost. And the sad part is that the movie had a lot of good ideas in it. Like, I actually like Kelsey Grammer in this. I thought he
Yeah,
was kind
yeah,
of
yeah. He was a really intermediate villain, I must say. Yeah.
was the main antagonist in this? I forget his name. Lockdown,
Um,
like that.
yeah, that one Decepticon whose head turns into
Right.
a gun
He's not
barrel.
he's not really a Decepticon, but it's like a guy working for what's your name, the Quintessa, whatever it is, right?
Oh, right,
That
right. Yeah.
he's like a bounty hunter. But I thought he had a great design. Like it had stuff in
He
it I
did.
like. It had a lot of great stuff in it, but the rest of the movie is total nonsense. There's a second scene in this movie that is absolutely is complete trash, and I cannot believe somebody take the time to write this in a script. That whole Romeo and Juliet laws bullshit. What the fuck?
Oh my God,
Yeah.
yes. This is with Mark
What?
Wahlberg's
Yeah.
daughter being, 16 whatever it is, and oh, she got date this older guy, and this is like the movie stops to explain like why
I mean, what?
even possible, Jerry. Like,
Like,
Mike, what are you doing? What are you doing?
yes.
What are you doing?
You're just like, when you have some internet beep where you're just shaking in the background. It's like, that is all me right now. It's like, what going on here? Why is this in a film?
Was
Somebody,
that his attempt at human interaction or
Dude.
some kind of randomness? What? Well, like, cause
Yeah.
no.
like, what the hell is this I was listening to? Anyway,
Yeah.
movie
So
trash.
that
move it on.
but yeah, so that's a wrap up though, right? So 2 years later, he gave us 13 hours, the Secret Soldiers of Benghazi. I remember seeing that
Right.
for the first time.
This,
And I was actually surprised to see
right.
what's his name? John Krasinski. It's like, what? Okay,
Right.
'cause I never saw him in an action role before. But this was where I was like, okay, so this is be once again returning to rated our territory.
Right.
Being mature, like actually telling a really, I don't want to say heartfelt, but really genuine story about, the military that really
Right.
glamorizing them so much, but just this was a situation that should not have happened, but it did, and
Right.
just really showing the tragedy in it all, that while giving us all the thrills and the explosions and stuff like that. I was like, okay, well, Mike, I mean, cool, you're back in, all right, cool. But in my head, I was like, all right, maybe he's just not fit for PG-13 films anymore.
Right.
Maybe he's just tired of it, right? And then Transformers: The Last Light dropped a year afterwards.
God.
And Tracy will says one time, this is my pick for worst movie of the decade. I saw this in IMAX, paid
boy.
to see this,
Yeah.
and it was I'll best describe it. This was Michael Bay basically telling people, "Oh, so y'all don't like my Transformers movies? Well, here's what. This is the last one I'm gonna make. I just going to shit on everybody. People
Now,
who liked it, who liked the franchise, people who did like the franchise. All y'all gonna get this shit, shit."
I
And
have to
I
ask,
never
is it
saw what's like I never
finish?
saw a filmmaker in my life do this.
Yeah.
Just stop caring about the work that he put in to a series shit and just be like, you know what? I don't know. So hold this, you know. Earth
Yeah.
is Unicron. Hold that, you know.
Yeah.
Me
Yeah.
care.
Well, that's canon by the way.
Hated it.
It's not like he make that up, you know. That is the canon. It is really good.
I
It's
know,
canon.
but
Yeah.
how you bring it in, Jenna? Like,
You know.
bruh. I never see a filmmaker just not care about the film that he making, Dread. Everything made no sense. And poor Anthony Hopkins, what they do
Yeah,
with
no,
he that show, my God, like.
no.
But yeah, you're saying Tracy?
No, I was just kind of curious. I mean, in terms of worst of the decade, is it
It's the
actually
worst of the
worse
decade.
than No, we saw Predator, remember? So,
That was one. Oh,
Is
that
that is
that
that
I
my
was,
vote?
version.
my
That
reason for playing last night worst, right? It's like, oh well, all the critics say it's the worst, so that's why it's my worst. Is how angry I felt after I saw this.
Yeah.
okay,
I
cool.
left the cinema, called my mom, and I was like quarreling with her, like, this is why I spend money to see. The day afterwards, I did an episode of Was It Seen, right? That was, my old movie review show. And
Right.
I was ranting about this. 2 days later, I talked to Ricardo about it, told
Yeah.
him how bad it was. He saw it about a month or so afterwards, and then he
Yeah.
come and tell me, boy, that was bad.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah,
like how I
I
feel
think,
about Green Lantern. So yeah, boy.
Right.
yeah.
It's not my least favorite of the decade. That well, you know what the worst is, and
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
what film not must not.
Martha!
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, Martha. Um, I okay, so I just want to get back to 13 hours. 13 hours in retrospect is very politically insidious. That's my only problem with it. And
Oh,
John Krasinski has a pattern of doing that, right? He's always like do these third world military incursion movies as if they're so heroic, and like, bro, you need to chill out with that. I know you need to make your money, but like, you need to chill out with that. But he, in retrospect, because it was a big Benghazi thing, and that ended up becoming this big political hot button for a while. I really distrust the film in retrospect. To tell the truth, by the time watching it, I thought it was cool. Like I thought it was like, oh, it had good action, good running for it was. But it's like I say at best, as the kids say, it is sus.
yeah, I got you. So, just wrap it up now, right? So, another thing I'll confess, because, well, I'll explain why. So, because last night rubbed me off in the worst way, I kind of skipped Six Underground, even though it was on
Okay.
Netflix. And
Yeah.
I'll tell you all this in preparation for this. Literally last night, it was recorded here. I watched it. I watched Six Underground, and I would have probably heated it back then, if it wasn't for the second half of the film. The first half is some of the most headache-inducing, non-linear non-linear narrative I've seen in a film ever in my life. Dread. Cut it back from present to past, though, and it's just, I would say it like this, right? Like in the film, in that first half, you see Monster and you see Red Bull, the logos. And I'm like, oh, so you tell me that I had to drink those to understand what going on at
Yeah,
all in that first half.
for
Okay, it is so
follow Cody movie.
terribly written and so terribly edited, but it's shocking. And then the second half happens now with the whole kidnap thing and the killing of people and all that kind of stuff. It's like, okay, this not bad, you know what I mean? But again, you know what I mean? It's him going back to that R-rated territory. So that's where I feel, overall, that's where I feel he fits perfectly, not so much the PG-13 stuff. But yeah, the movie is still trash though, but at least the second half kind of redeem it, right? But we'll just say this before we move on to Tracy, right? With, love-hate relationship with Michael B. Um, I, in retrospect, like I understand why he exists. Like I would say, what I mean is like he came out like in his career wise at just the right time. I
Yeah.
mean, midpoint of the '90s when when it comes to action movies and summer blockbusters, we just come to expect to have our minds blown basically, right?
Yeah, just how
So
to
he just came in at just
overwhelm the senses
exactly, he just
in the
came in
late
at just the
90s.
right time.
And
It was just all the style, you know what I mean? It's just all in your face though. But at the time, especially with like Bad Boys and Rock, though, it worked. But because he kind of, I would say like this, he just wanted to be the action movie author, right?
Yeah.
Even Pearl Harbor to extent is an action film, but he wanted to make a romantic film. Okay, James Cameron did that, right? But
Right.
that didn't work, right? So luckily for him, he had explosions and bullets, right? So cool, right? So yeah, but it was just him trying to be this action movie author, like he wants to be the next John Woo, right? You know what I mean, that kind of stuff there. But it's just over the years now, he just kind of stuck to his old ways, basically, right? And it for better for worse, it worked in some films like Transformers and Pain and Gain, but
Right.
oftentimes it doesn't work in other films like that, right? So that's why, like, I understand why he makes films the way he does and what we expect from him, and just him being just kind of a cut above the rest. But at the same time, though, I hate to see this. It's kind of like old. It's like, all right, well, okay, we kind of know what to expect now, so you're really going to give us anything new? But I would kind of make this argument. I'll stop here. Can he really do anything else more, or should he really afford to do anything more? You know what I mean? Where he's at in his career and life, like, should he really try to step out of his comfort zone like what he did with Pearl Harbor? I don't think so, right? But I can't say, oh, he should stop making action films. You know what I mean? Like, if that's how he make any money, fine, right? So
And
it's one
studios
of
love
those
to give
things,
him the
Shredder.
money.
It's
Huh?
one of those situations. But I'll stop there.
I
Yeah.
was just saying, studios just love to give him the money anyhow.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
then to that question, I mean, I'll give you this comparison, and this is the worst possible comparison, but this is where my brain is at. You kind of look at, let's say, Shyamalan, and Shyamalan has some films like he's just come out. The trailer for Old is out, and you see certain things, and there is a Shyamalanic pattern that where his movies would go. But there's still one or two of his films that you look at and you still feel like there might be, even though this is his aesthetic, there is a little bit of a difference. So there is a little bit of a change, or a little bit of a, oh, this feels like it could be cool. Where B is concerned, B has like this, like you could literally look at a thing and be like, okay, so this has a lot of Bism. This feels very B, and I don't really see him changing, even if that is his style. I mean, we know what Zack Snyder's style is, but even if that is his style, it doesn't look like he has much. Like if he's going to change anytime soon. This is who he
Right.
is. Love him or hate him, kind of vibe.
Right. So this is a kind of open fact that most people know by now. But I remember at the time learning it, I was kind of had my mind blown. It's like, oh, Zack Snyder, Michael Bay, and Tassim Singh went to the same school together at the same time. Like, oh
Right.
shit. And so
That
yes,
actually explains a lot.
right. Yeah, and it's not a surprise that Tassim Singh is like a lead-in to Zack Snyder because the first big movie with him was Henry Cavill, right? And all it is that all of them had the same kind of over hype, how to hype it up now. Just overload your senses, hype up the action, hyper realization, hyper normalization kind of cinema. And it's interesting how Michael Bay is the one who is the most grounded in a certain aesthetic, right? He's the loudest, but he's the one who not overblowing it with the art or the aesthetic or the colors or anything like that. Unlike say the other two now, right? Especially Tassim Singh. Oh, holy shit! Like I really waited for Tassim Singh to actually get a big budget, but we gotta get that yet, however. But no, we can start talking about it now. But I really, his career is fascinating, to be honest, right? And we had to get into that whole what you think about the military and it have a whole sort of content, but we can start talking about it now because this film is actually surprisingly interesting given his track record as a promoting the military now. But yeah, let's talk about it.
Yeah. All right. So let's not waste any more time. Let's jump into The Rock, right? And good thing that you brought up the whole military thing, because yes, boy. Seeing that he has a hard on for the military in America
Okay.
is an understatement, though. But yeah, he is clearly like I deep down believe that secretly what like Michael Bay like if he dies, right, knock on wood, I feel he wants to have a military funeral, 21 gun salute everything, like just like a whole memorial day, if you will, just honoring how he has promoted the United States military forces and stuff like that, right? But yeah, speaking of that, though, just jumping into the film, though, it does, I would say like the intro to this movie kind of sort of kicks ass, right? And this is before the first action sequence begins, right? The key to it, though, for me is the music, which is done by Nick Glennie-Smith and Hans Zimmer. Yes, Hans Zimmer, who you know. Yeah, it was a collaborative effort, right? But the music that they use here, that da 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 da, right? And how they play it so mournful in the intro, it works, but it just adds this gravitas to it, right? I love the slow-mo shots, how you just see the soldier just walking to the cemetery, and I like how the show kind of sets it up that you're seeing Francis Hummel, General Francis Hummel, played excellently, I would say, by Ed Harris. And you think it's about him, but actually when that scene is about to wrap up, you see him like talking like at his wife's gravesite basically. I love how the rain is falling and how epic it all looks and all that kind of stuff there. And he's like, I tried to talk to them, but they would listen. Please forgive me. I have to do this. And one thing that I found that was so fascinating about this character, right? Hummel's character, is the show is not going out of its way to make him sympathetic, but it's like this guy is clearly conflicted. He has this moral conflict about him. He's doing something terrible, but he feels it's for the right reason. And yes, like, even there's a moment in the show where a character, I'll see who it is later on, kind of calls him on his bullshit. It's like, dude, you clearly mad though. But still, for me, you kind of get the logic now. Like, yeah, this is what a guy like him and what he went through. This is what he have to do to get the word out and to get his message through. I thought that was like really fascinating. For me, I would say, as far as like 90s action villains, I never saw anything like that before in my life. Because you just think, oh, the villain is bad and he just does bad things because of money and revenge. But there was like, hey, y'all don't want to listen to me, so fine, this is what I gotta do. And that to me is still mind blowing. I would say like, he's one of the best villains ever.
This is one of the central, right? So here's one of the central things involving, Michael. Well, okay. So in film, this again another secret of Hollywood is that one of the reasons why a lot of films get financed is because of the U.S. military, straight up, right? That's the only way you could pull a lot of stuff off. But what you have to do is you have to make the military look sympathetic in some way, shape, or form, right? That's common sense. Everybody knew that. This film kind of tries to pass it out, right, by saying, well, it gets into that kind of borderline insidious argument about, well, you could hate war and hate policy, but you have to cater to the troops and make the troops look good and so on and so forth, right? And that's what this film kind of does, right? It gets into this narrative of, well, the Americans really do shitty foreign policy, and then his character is this kind of balanced figure of saying, well, I'm a victim of the situation and whatnot, right? And he's a surprisingly nuanced character. I don't know if back in the 90s things had to be at a different standard of writing, but this was like shockingly, shockingly nuanced characterization. It is one of my favorite villain archetypes, which is let us call him the disgruntled soldier genius character that comes back for revenge in his own way, and you have to know how to make the character work. The character almost always, that character archetype almost always works because it addresses a real grievance, and then you could make the case for, some problem. And it's a legitimate issue in our modern society. American soldiers are fucked over constantly, right? They never get basic like healthcare and all of that stuff, right? And they incredibly traumatize human beings and so on and so forth, right? And that was shocking to see in the mid-90s. This is before 9/11. This is before Iraq and Afghanistan. That's in modern context, we know it right. But everybody forget, you had Vietnam and Desert Storm and Grenada and Panama and whatever. This is another content. But to see that in the 90s in a big blockbuster like that was kind of interesting.
Yeah, indeed. Yeah. Tracy, you could intervene. Oh, sorry, you were intervening. Sorry.
No, I mean, there's always the argument about two Americas. You have the suits in power who make legislation that do not actually help the people who are involved, and then you have the people on the ground. So, like the average soldier, who since they're small, they see the ads on the TV, you hear the music, which, funny enough, the music in this is basically an ad, come join in the army. Right. And you go out there because you believe in God and country and the American way, and you get, as Ricardo says, you get completely messed up. So the idea of him I mean, as much as how I feel about the movie, and we'll get to that later, but the idea of him taking a stand and even going to his wife, who would have followed him and would have believed in whatever mission that he would have had beforehand as a general, as an army wife, sorry. Um, Going to her and asking for her forgiveness and leaving his star, which is that whole big medal, his medal there on the graveside before he does what he has to do.
Yeah.
That felt right. That felt like, okay, this guy is about to mean business, but there's still that conflict.
Yeah, correct. Right, and then we actually get to the first action sequence, which I thought was really kick-ass as well. I love how it's set in rain as well, so it has a nice transition from that earlier scene with Ed Harris, right? And it's just them basically, well, him and his team basically making their way into this naval weapons depot. They
Right.
take down the guards, and there's that kind of on the nose moment where it's like, well, it's darts we're using, right? You know what I mean? So we tell the audience, no, they actually get killed. Don't worry, right? And they proceed to steal 16 MMX missiles from this particular room, right? In the process of moving one of the missiles, a soldier gets killed because there's this VX gas that's released from it's basically like this single pearl formation basically. So one of the pearls falls and we see the effect of the VX gas and they leave him and they're like, oh, we're sorry, you know what I mean? And then they run. So technically now they have 15 missiles, right? Which I thought was really cool. Well, rockets, right? Technically, right? Um, I remember like the second. Well, okay. So first time I saw the movie, like I said, was on TTT, right? The second time I saw it was on USA. And like usually on USA, they still do it now. They always have those sort of coming up next promos where they have to show a shot from the film, right? So
Yeah.
one of the shots of the show is basically the establishing shot of we boy Nicolas Cage, aka Stanley Goodspeed. That scene where
Okay.
he turns on the chair with the gun and fires it dart. I
Hmm.
remember like loving that back then. I thought that was really cool there. But yeah, I mean, this
Yeah.
is how he's introduced to the film. And how I mean, the joke like it's probably like he saw Bad Boys one too many times. Like this is how he's introduced into the film. I thought it was really cool. Um, Also, a little bit of character development that I really appreciate, but it comes up later. He's a vinyl collector. He's also a Beatlemaniac. And yeah, like I say, that's something that comes back up later. It's like, okay, that's cool. And speaking of cool, we actually get a really cool, really decent scene. Well, basically, he is a chemical weapons specialist, basically, and he works for the FBI, right? So this is really cool scene with him in the laboratory where him and his assistant basically disarming this bomb was a package, but it's actually a bomb sent by terrorists. And yeah, some poison gas is released, right? And nerve gas, basically. And you see like the clock ticking, the gas is eating away at the suits, and I like how it just kind of sets up how calm and collective
Yeah.
Stanley is under pressure like that while his assistant is just like spazzing out, right? And there's even a moment where they say, well, it kind of comes up later, which I love, the whole idea, well, you have to inject yourself with atropine,
Right.
right? In case as soon as you get poisoned, as soon as you start to feel like your nerves start to tingle in your back and all that kind of stuff, right? And I imagine like for audiences back in '96, right? Probably were freaked out at the moment at the idea of, oh, you need to stab this needle in your heart, right? Instantly thought of Pulp Fiction, which came out two
Right.
years ago. That moment with Uma Thurman
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
how they
Yeah.
had to stab her with the adrenaline to wake
Yeah.
back up there. You know what I mean? But yeah, that moment, that establishing moment with Nicolas Cage is great. Just seeing young Nicolas Cage was funny, and just how chill he is. I'll bring up the whole chill thing a little bit later, but yeah, he is way chill in this movie. Up to this point, I would say. Yeah, guys. So any
Yes.
thoughts on that opening moments with Nicolas Cage?
Yeah. Yeah. Great. Yeah. It's just solid establishing shots. It sets up Ed Harris very very well, and it's typical Bayisms. This is when the Bayisms start showing up, right? Nicolas Cage is. I remember him being really cool and like one. This is one of his cooler roles. It's not. This was like real, like, oh, this character real ridiculous too. Later on, he does some really over the top shit and dialogue, and how he talking to Sean Connery when both of them was bouncing
Yeah.
up each other.
Yeah,
But
we
it is,
we get to that.
yeah. But this is like, oh, this kind of wild and kind of dread in its own way though. But yeah, that opening sequence is quite good. It sets up early stakes. It sets up how he thinks, and then it makes the call back to the end, and you'll see You get to they introduce something and then bring it back at the end. It's like, all right, yeah. I completely forgot a lot of that, to be honest. Because it have a lot of stuff in this. I realized I didn't have a working memory of this movie because I really don't remember like most of the action sequences or anything like that. But yeah, there's a good way to
Right.
set up two main characters and the main antagonists and whatnot.
This was during what I call peak Cage. So like
Cage,
I mean yeah, peak Cage. So it's like I look at him there and I see um I see honestly I look at him and I in this FBI role and I see at least in the beginning I see Face Off. I
Yeah.
see that kind of when Sean got his face swapped over and he's like, I'm like that is the kind of vibe that I got out of it. And then later on when he starts, screaming bloody murder, that is a whole other scene, but yeah, okay.
Yeah. All right. So next scene now, we have this sort of okay. Well, we have to have just a little bit more character development with Stanley, where he's talking to his girlfriend. The actress I know, I only remember her from this movie. I swear she was in something else, but I can't remember, right? And basically is where she kind of comes and tell him, I'm pregnant, right? And again, boy, he is just so oddly chill. So he's like, really? Wow. You know what I mean? And they have a moment basically where she like proposes him, like kind of fake proposes him. He's like, whoa, marriage police, pull over. You know what I mean? I'm like, all right, like, dude, like, I understand you're real chill and you listen to the Beatles and you play a lot of guitar and stuff like that, but I don't know, like, I can't see this moment play any other way because of how Nicolas Cage is, you know what I mean? So it just works. Um, Even a moment with him, like a so-called sex scene, if you want to call it that, and the FBI is calling him, right? Which you'll get
Right.
into later on. And he's like, this isn't happening, you know what I mean?
You know?
And I don't know, but it's just one of those moments, like, again, like, honestly, like, one of the biggest reasons why this movie works, though, is Nicolas Cage, right? Love him or hate him or be freaked out by him, right? But he just brings this certain level of energy to it, where I don't know, you just can't imagine anybody else delivering that line that way or being the way he is up at that moment. Like, I just saw many moments with him and his girlfriend, Jen. So, yeah, I mean, he's unnaturally chill, but it kind of works, man. I don't know if you guys agree on that.
Yeah.
I'm good with that.
Yeah. Right, so back to Hummel now, right? So him and a few of his soldier buddies basically attend this field trip in Alcatraz, right? And I like how Bokeem Woodbine, who's in the film, comes up to one of the guys like, "I don't give a shit. You give a shit." I mean, basically, because like it's the usual, "Hey, you're not supposed to be here." You know what I mean? That kind of moment now. And in a not so smart move, right? The Ranger Bob character, right? The tour guide basically kind of persuades the visitors to go into the cells, you know what I mean? So they will understand how it feels to be amongst the scum, you know what I mean? America's scum, basically. And I love how, like, right after they go inside, that's when Hummel comes up behind him and, pulls the gun at him and his two goons. And that's when, they kind of take everybody else hostage, right? Um, and then a nice, B moment, you know what I mean? You're seeing the helicopters and the rotors, right? And, they see the team just setting up shop, right? I love that there's this, like, zoom into to Ed Harris. It's like, welcome to the Rock. I actually find that was really interesting because I remember Sean Connery, like, I thought he was the only one who said that in the movie now, but actually Ed Harris said it early on, welcome to the Rock. I thought that was really cool as well. I love how organized they are at this moment. They prep the the rockets. They have these anti-motion trackers and
Right. Yeah.
they set up everything, Joe. They're not just like, set up and then, no, it's like they just arrive and set a call for demands. They just set shop one time, Joe, no sticking. I love that about it, right? And yeah, as you said before, I forgot Tony Todd was in this movie.
Yeah.
Raymond Cruz, he
Right.
took over Breaking Bad. He in the like,
Yeah.
what? He's a guy with the little, top, thing on his head. Like, okay, wow, he's in this, right? Um, and here's the thing, like I said before, I was really taken aback. Even the first time I saw the Rockner, at how Hummel was like the uber bad guy. Like, he wasn't terrorizing the visitors, right? The man just set up. He know what he had to do. It's a noble quote unquote reason why. And I love just the moment where he calls the Pentagon and he's talking about well, he basically kind of gives them everything what went down. Like, he was part of this Marine Force group they're doing all these illegal missions for years, but every time they get killed, the families are fed lies. And I mean, like, they don't really know what happened. And he's like, no, well, the lies have to stop, right? And yeah, just that moment with him just delivering that speech just clicked with me. Yes, it is very, very USA all the way, but it
Yeah.
works too. And it's just really because of how damn convincing Ed Harris is in this entire movie, Jed. Like you buy into everything that he says in this film, Jed. It works. Y'all have any thoughts on just Ed Harris in that moment? Just
Yeah, yeah.
him, you
As I
know.
say, as I said before, it is one of my favorite villain archetypes. The person who he does a bunch of bad shit, but then you realize the system, and you could do a lot with that premise. And yeah, it sets up a great premise for
There,
the storyline.
there are two things that. Sorry, go ahead.
No, yeah, no, you just genuinely sympathize with him. If especially if you know American history and American foreign policy and whatnot and whatnot.
No, there are two things about that entire sequence that stays stuck with me rather. One, I don't understand the fascination that people have with going to see how prisoners live in that kind of vibe.
Right.
You ain't catching me to go inside no cell. I ain't doing that. That's ass. I'm not going there.
There's some
And
folks who just want to go
to,
like,
to the
hey, you in San
experience, nah,
Francisco? Well, all right,
I ain't
let's
having it.
see Alcatraz now.
It's I feel like I don't I like that personally. I was like, nope, nope. But what I do like, and that leads into this speech, is the well-oiled machine. The idea of preparing for any inevitability. This is a general who has led men into battle, so he
Uh,
fully expects, somebody
every
to come with
contingency.
this and yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. So with that in mind, like he's coming there, and like you guys say, it's not just him coming to say, I want all this, I want $1 million because I want $1 million. There's a thought, there's a rationale, there's a reasoning behind it. I will say, like, I feel in terms of Ed, on the whole, there's a little note that I have written down here that says he makes a better general for Die Hard 2 than the actual general in Die
Right.
Hard 2.
Right.
Because the
Right. Right.
Oh
general in Die Hard 2
yeah,
is a bit of a blowhard and kind of
yeah.
ridiculous. And
And what
I
was the
think,
reason in Die Hard 2 was to free some South
South
American
American
general or
drug
something? Yeah,
lord.
drug lord.
Because
Yeah,
yeah, because that I remember. The logic that they had behind that was something along the lines of, you can't keep like you need to make deals. America needs to make deals with these people so that you can understand how to run the drugs and how to make sure that everything is fine and things are moving smoothly. And he did this whole scene, but at the end of the day, it was about money. So he was him and his black general and all this kind of thing. Watching Ed Harris play and speak here is like this is a better general for because I can't even remember the other guy's name. This is a better general for Die Hard 2. That's my thoughts on that.
understood. Yeah. Right. So also in that whole FBI moment, right? Just that. Well, I should say in the Pentagon, basically, we introduced to the scummy Womack by Jim Womack, right? Played by John Spencer. Oh my god, this guy is an asshole. But I like that about his character, Jim. But like in this one, I just watch it over, like wow, but like I forget just how scummy you are, Jim. You know what I mean? I just love how they set up the whole idea of lies. Like I feel like lies is like this sub team of the film, right? Because right after the first call that right after the
Yep.
first call that Hummel gives, he's like, well, we have to inform the families what's going on, but we're not really gonna tell them that they're being taken hostage now. You know what I mean? So again, lies, right? Even though Hummel was like, hey, you tell anybody about this, we're killing them, right? Also somebody else I didn't even know was in this movie, Michael Bean, who plays
Right.
Commander Anderson. Like, what, you in
Yeah.
this?
He's in this.
Okay. Right, he's part of the Navy and he'll come up a little bit later, right? So the secondary plan basically by the Navy, right, is to use thermal plasma, right, delivered by F-18s to counteract the VX poison gas, right? But the primary plan basically is to sneak in and stop the soldiers before they even launch the rockets, right? But the problem is they need someone who knows about Alcatraz's foundations to break in, right? And then they reveal this government secret, right? It's something they almost forgot about. John Mason, played excellently by the late great Sean Connery dread. And I love how they set it up like, okay, he's this SAS operative. He broke out of 2 maximum security prisons after Alcatraz because he was incarcerated in 62 and he escaped in 63, right? I don't know if it's based on I believe it's based on a myth that, people actually did escape from Alcatraz. It's
Right.
one of those urban legend kind of things, right?
Right.
But anyway, but this is where Sean Connery comes to the story. And in true Michael Bay fashion, by his opening sequence is so stylish and so 90s. It's awesome. I love the silhouettes, the close up of the key in slow mo, how the light from the flashlights make that whoosh sound effect though. It is so unabashedly 90s, and but I love it. I love everything about that scene, and it's so over the top, Joe. I'll just say this one time before you all share the quick thoughts on this. The Sean Connery intro moment. This remains one of my all-time favorite Sean Connery performances. I actually put this, into as top 5 in my opinion. Just because, and I'll explain in the end, basically, is the idea of, well, the character in the film is like in the 60s or whatever it was. But the idea of our old Sean Connery just
Yeah.
being an action hero again,
Always.
it works. Like it shouldn't, like on paper, it shouldn't work, but in this film here, it works perfectly, in my opinion. But yeah, guys, your thoughts on this, that Sean Connery stylized intro scene thing?
I kind of pretty much was like, oh, for the love of God. Because, like, as much as I love Sean, and Sean is everlasting for me, again, in terms of things that I would have seen from Bay, because, like, for me, I came into The Rock much later. Like, I mean, like, very recently. Like, I mean, like, to do this review. So
Right.
this is me after I've already been flooded with all the other real late 90s, early 2000s Bayism. So even on that, like hearing you explain it, kind of like it makes me chuckle the idea of how Sean's entry is, but you kind of look at it and you be like, I've seen and I've been saturated with this before, but it's still a cool way to kind of bring in a character with as much gravitas like Sean's character.
Mm. Ricardo, quick thoughts on that scene before we move on.
Yeah, good intro. Again, I do Dizzy all these iconic shots that I do remember in this film is from that.
Yeah,
Uh,
and it's in the trailer, so I mean,
yeah. All
yeah,
of this
yeah,
from trailer. I was like, okay.
yeah,
Yeah, that's a solid opening. Not much to say other than okay, this sets up his character really well.
right.
I love the interrogation scene we get, following from
Yes,
that.
yeah,
It's
which I'm
pretty
gonna
good.
get into.
Yeah,
We introduced another character by the name of Ernest Paxton, who's played by William Forsythe. I was like, wait, you in this show? Like,
yeah, we
again,
have to
it's just
Everybody's
it's
in
just
there.
character, it's just character actors in this show thread, and this. And is he lines that John drops to? Well, John Mason, right? Like where he says, "I've been in jail longer than Nelson Mandela. Maybe you want me to run for president." Like I just love that. Just so crass, but it works. So sardonic, right?
That's such a that's
That's
such
the
Um,
a
thing
nine-
about
that's such a 90s statement. Holy
I
shit.
know.
this is what I was not going to say. Like, I mean, there are things that you could have that were allowed, and I'm using the word allowed loosely, that could have been said. That if you say that now, even as a character, in terms of him being morally gray, you would kind of look at it now and be like, "Come on, this feels a little uncomfortable. This is a little." But this was the '90s. You're going to say whatever the hell you want, and I would have just been like, "Oh well, he's this guy." That
It
is
has a
his.
lot of it has a lot of obnoxious 90s writing, like characters just need to curse and yell at each other for no reason or call
I
somebody
know,
like
right?
a chicken
Yeah,
shit, something like that.
yeah,
That's like,
yeah,
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 that's such
yeah.
a 90s thing.
yeah. Speaking of that, well, with Stanley now, there's a nice little moment now where Womack again, the asshole, basically tells Stanley to go and talk to John, but he wanted to say, well, you're not gonna see a chemical weapon specialist, you're a field agent, right? And there's one of those blinking and missing moments where Stanley says, "So you want me to lie?" And Womack says, "Yeah, lie, right?" So again, just going back to that whole lie sub team, right? And I won't lie though, just their opening sequence, just that convo together is so good. Like you could just feel the chemistry between the two of them there. Like I just love how Nick is trying not to, like he's trying to be tough, like trying to be a field agent, be all, responsible there, but he's slipping up a lot. And Sean is kind of watching him like, you're shit, right? Like I just watch you just be an idiot. You know what I mean? I love that.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. And Womack though is such a dick. Like
Yeah,
like right after John signs the pardon, right? And Stanley gives it the part, and he rips it up, dreaded. Stanley's like, "Why are you doing this for?" He's like, "Well, he's on a need to know basis, and you don't need to know." You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like, dog, like, come to manja. Like, Wobak is just one of those characters you just love to hate, right? But anyway,
Seeing
um,
him though, I will throw this out. Seeing
uh,
him in West Wing, because that's where I know like John, like that's where I know him from. So you see him in West Wing, and it's like he has this
Yes.
really cool way about him. He's Leo McGrary. He has this kind of balanced kind of vibe to him. And then seeing him here, cussing everybody out, being duplicitous, I'm like, wow, wow. That was my whole thing
he
throughout this
has
entire film.
rage, right? He has
Hmm.
rage.
Hmm.
Mm. All right, so fun fact, right? So the whole Fairmont Hotel moment, right? This is where John goes because he wants to get, a shower and a shave and all that kind of stuff, right? Of course, with FBI agents, just keeping an eye on him, right? And there's a moment where they're playing that, I forgot the name of the song, that whole "I'm leaving on a jet plane," and like for the moment I heard that, I was like, oh yeah, so this actually came back up in Armageddon because it was that
Right.
moment where Ben Affleck was singing that song to Liv Tyler,
Just to say
and
we're getting off,
it
yeah.
sounded terrible, right? So whatever, moving on, right? So yeah, literally, John, our Womack, tries to make this deal with John. John literally leaves him hanging, and then he flees, right? Stanley and the other agents give chase, and there's a moment in the elevator scene, right? This is with Sean Connery and the stylist character, right? If you listen really, really close to it, you'll hear like a little melody which actually sound very much like the foundation for the Pirates of the Caribbean theme.
Okay.
You
Right.
hear a little
Right. Maybe
No, this
yeah.
is
Rock,
accurate. This is
I'm
accurate.
Brockheimer.
like,
Yeah,
what? Okay.
Brockheimer.
Yeah, right. It's just okay. It's Hans Zimmer, you know what I mean? Like you know what I mean? Basically working on future projects in this project. I see you. I like that. And then we get one of my favorite scenes in the movie, and I'll make the argument. One of my favorite moments in a Michael Bay movie, the car chase through the streets of San Francisco. I just love this scene though. It is because I mean, going into this, right? Of course, Michael Bay did the car chase thing in the first Bad Boys movie, right? But here it just feels so much more refined. The shots, like especially like when you're seeing cars that really fly down the road and all that kind of stuff. It just looks awesome. The music behind it is great. I love how convenient it all starts. I'm like, oh, there's a Humvee. All right, jump into it. Vroom. Hey, there's a Ferrari. Jump in, bro.
You
It's like Grand Theft Auto, like the game that literally dread. But I won't lie though, from camera work to just the editing to just the music to the action, everything in the scene works. So even does the whole low angle 180-degree camera
Yeah.
tilt when it comes out. It just totally works. But yes, in retrospect, there's no need for the scene at all. The only reason why it's just there because we needed Sean to make a call to find out, hey, could you find out the location of a Jade Angelou, right? Which is a character that will show up later. That's really the real reason behind all this, But other than that, though, I just love how 90s it is, how adrenaline fueled it all is. I just love this whole scene, Jen. I don't know if you guys agree or disagree with it being a great scene. It's a great scene.
So here's my thing. I sat down, I'm like in the little scribbles of the notes I have here, it's like the complete Michael Beaness, because sorry, because you can't tell me. I mean, I'm watching this car. This car swerves to hit an old woman who just okay. What's your deal? All right, swerves to hit. Then you hit a whole bunch of parking meters. The parking meters fly up in the air and
know.
it goes, it hits the side of the tram. And let's not even start with the black tram operator there who is very over the top at the end
Oh
of that
my god,
entire
especially when it
sequence.
ends, so I'm gonna
It's,
kick
oh,
your
God.
motherfucking ass.
It's of course, like this is level 90s, and all of that ends with explosions. I was like, there it is,
Yeah.
there is the Michael Bay we know. There it is. I honestly, between that and the little piece I think that comes just after where Nicholas starts screaming, "Freeze, Mister!" I no, no, nah.
Oh, that whole freeze
It's
mister
it's
thing was hilarious,
And
by
then
the way.
the
it,
line
it's fun to
reading,
watch, but
somebody
yeah.
line reading in this thread. Cage had some ridiculous line reading in this too. And I was like, I thought Cage was so serious in this movie. That's what I remember. No.
Yeah, it was really, really, really wooden. But
Yeah.
I don't know, like I feel like they do it intentionally so because, he's not a field agent. So
Right.
when he tries to be tough, it comes up stiff and goofy,
Yeah.
you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Something like that. But yeah, Ricardo, quick thoughts on just that
Yeah,
90s action scene.
there's a wholly unnecessary scene. Doesn't need to exist, but it's there. And we need to fill up some time and have an action sequence. You can tell there's studio notes coming down on them for that. Somewhere along the line they just say either him or the studio on top tell us, look, we need an action sequence. Give me one there.
Mm,
They just
yeah.
have this open top action sequence that doesn't exist. I think it was kind of weird given that this character is not supposed to be like this sneaky spy type with all this bullshit.
Yes.
You know?
Whatever.
Yes.
Yeah. But anyway, so through some FBI digging, Stanley learns that John's next of kin is, well, he has a daughter actually, called Jade Angelo, right? And well, John actually meets up with Jade, and they actually have a nice little conversation because, like, yeah, you don't really know me, but I'm trying to like reintroduce myself into your life basically,
Right.
and I like that. Like, that was a like little human moment, right? And the feds show up, and okay, so again, Nicolas Cage being Nicolas Cage, right? That let's cut the chit chat a hole, you know what I mean? Is like that's nobody else could deliver that line the way he delivered that line, Chad. It is cringe. Don't get me wrong, it is cringe, but I can't think of anybody else who could do that line, Chad, in my opinion. So afterwards, now we have basically, John and Stanley head over to where the Navy team is,
Right.
and I love this great logical moment where Commander Anderson, right, showing John a bunch of blueprints, and John is like, "Well, dude, all the blueprints in my head, like, you really think I'm gonna know everything I have to be there physically to remember?" I'm like, "Oh, okay, that actually makes sense." Because I mean, when was the last time he was there? Like, what, 3 years ago, right? And I feel like they just had that moment there for people who, like me, probably went and like, okay, so you really wanna like like you think premise wise it is sillier, we were gonna break into Alcatraz and stop these soldiers, right? Like, but I love that they have these little moments where it's like, well, of course you don't expect this old guy to remember everything, right? He have to be there, right? Another great moment was when Stanley was like, okay, well, I need to explain all I need to know about VX gas and why it's deadly and what you need to do. And Anderson was like, no, 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 dude, you need to go with us, And then it had this moment with this one guy just like spilling out every single thing, like just the entire mission shred. And he's like, oh, okay, excuse me, runs in the bathroom and pukes. So I just love that moment. It's just such a great moment. You know what I mean?
There are two things there that stuck with me. One, in terms of in terms of Sean's character, in terms of him being there, I felt like him telling them that all the blueprints are in his head is kind of like to make sure that he is still valuable as an asset.
Right.
So,
exactly.
I brought you here, but if you don't need me anymore, I'm just going to go back to
leverage.
the thing. So there is that. Yeah, exactly. There is that leverage. And then in terms of the idea of having Stanley show up, it reminded me, it's kind of funny, as much as I'm not the biggest fan of this film, it's amazing to me the kind of callbacks to other films that it reminds me of. But that moment there when they tell him you have to come, that reminds me of, I can't remember which one of them, but it is Harrison Ford, Tom Clancy, one of them. It might have been Patriot Games, where he is told that he has to go on the field with the assassin who was played by Willem Dafoe. And I remember that whole secret because here's an analyst who sits down in the CIA office and he doesn't really do anything much outside of write reports and that kind of stuff. But now he has to be in the thick of things. That is what that, and then of course he goes and puke. But that of course is what that reminds me of.
Right. I think it's clear and present danger. I think
Is
that's
that
the
one?
show.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That one. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And of course, Stanley's girlfriend is there, you know what I mean, because she has to be there, right? So whatever. In true Michael Bay former style, we get the derivative speech by Commander Anderson, we're in the fight of our lives, blah 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 blah, right? And of course you have the American flag draped to the background, like, oh gosh, like they literally did that in Armageddon and Pearl Harbor. Just like, come on, right? But it's a cool moment, right? Especially with the music and all that kind of stuff, right? Of course, the team sets up, and you get another base where you see the Navy SEAL team sort of rise out of the water from the large sort of pipe system.
Yeah.
As soon as you reach in Alcatraz, and it reminds me a lot like that scene in Bad Boys 2 with the task force team sneaking up
Yeah.
on the Ku Klux Klan rally. And I thought that was really interesting. And then, you have this cool moment where John literally, there's this furnace, right? And then he has to time the moments where you see the flames come down and he rolls through and then he turns it off. And then you get his welcome to the rock moment. I was like,
Right.
okay, I like that. Because that was all over the marketing for this movie. That
yeah,
moment.
exactly. I just rewatching it. It really has that clumsy 90s editing to everything. They just take it and then play the music one time. Like it's a hype moment. Like in a theater, it would work because it time and it's kind of like when you pause to hear the audience applause. It's the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
It does have a kind of clumsiness thing that we don't see anymore.
Yeah, it does, but it's really a crowd pleasing moment. I won't lie though. There's a blink and you miss moment though where Stanley moves through this tunnel and like he jumps like onto like this other tunnel below where everybody else walking, right, and he falls there. He goes, "Oh," you know what I mean? Like I was like, okay, they still kind of set up how awkward, how he's just not fit to be in the field basically. So that was cool. Of course, Hummel's team catches wind of what's going on. They rush after them, and you get this really like still like every time I see it, it still grips me. A great Mexican standoff though between Hummel's team and Commander Anderson's team, right? In the shower room. I love the dialogue that goes on between Anderson and Hummel, right? Basically, Anderson saying, "I understand what it is you're doing, Dredd, but I had to take you down." And it's like, and Hummel keeps saying, if you take one more step, I'm gonna fire. That's just keep winding on that clock basically, right? And you're just feeling that tension building. Of course, some guy from the top, you know, ends up shifting the gun and like a bit of like rock or gravel, whatever it is, rubble fall to the floor, and everybody just start firing shots, and the music swells. So one thing I just love, like, okay, like, maybe this is Michael B trying to be, anti-war, but it kind of is, but it is glorified. It is very derivative, but still is like, I do love that you see the tragedy of it all. It's not like a over glorified action scene. It's two military people with different views, and it just kind of ends in this bloody shootout dread. And I love it. I just love how you're seeing John and Stanley just kind of hiding, and well, especially how it affects Stanley, because he's just seeing all these people, hearing people just getting slaughtered basically. I think it totally works. It's a great, powerful moment in the movie. Barnard, any thoughts on that shower room shootout?
Yeah, it's a great scene. They descent. They went and put. I think they went. He was trying to do put a camera at the descenter. Get pick up. One thing, another noticeable about things about this, the difference between now and 25 years ago in the 90s is no drones. No drones, no cell phones. And how all the tech at the time was so cool and fancy. But when they look at it, it's like, they could fly a drone in here and with a smartphone or something like that, maybe. No. Okay.
Yeah, that's true.
It's there's a lot of there's that old joke. A lot of films would end instantly because you have cell phones. It's that. It's a lot of screenwriting about the tech at the time, and that's how screenwriting was back then to deal with all these things. It was really funny to watch this effectively antiquated technology being used in the storyline because it's so 90s.
Yeah. It would have been so much easier for them to just navigate that, but no, you have to have these motion tracker things, right?
Yeah.
Now, speaking of technology, right? So some people may not like the attempts at making Hummel sympathetic, though, because technically he's a terrorist, right? But I actually appreciate these moments, though. So like, there's a moment where he goes up to Anderson and closes his eyes, and then he notices the camera, right? Again, old school technology, right? And he's looking down, and the FBI agent's watching, and then he says, "You made a terrible mistake, and more of our brothers have died in vain." Like, I love that, right? But I know for some people, they'll be like, but no, this guy is a terrorist. Like, why are we trying to make him so sympathetic? Like, he feels sorrow for what happened. But the thing is, he feels sorrow about what happened. Like, he feels bad. Like, that's it.
There's a thing that villains, well, not all, but there's a thing that some villains do, the look what you made me do kind of route where it's
Right.
like, listen, I'm going to take over this place, but I want as less as a limited amount of bloodshed as possible, or
Right.
I didn't want to do this, or I didn't want to have this escalated. If only you had listened. And it's legitimately that. It's like we didn't have to be here if you had just been truthful, been honest, been whatever. That is the kind of height that I get out of it. And I particularly loved a little piece before when the shootout was going on, where Stanley is underneath and he's telling the guy, "Don't go, don't go, don't go, don't go,"
Yeah,
and
yeah,
he
yeah,
pops
yeah,
his head out like a ninja turtle and
yeah.
ends up getting killed.
Yeah, exactly. So later on, we learn why John was incarcerated in the first place, right? And so what this reminded me of, people kind of hate this moment. So basically, John stole some highly confidential microfilm from J.
Right.
Edgar Hoover back in '62, but he never gave up the whereabouts of where he had it
Right.
now, right up to this day. And I don't know why, but it just reminded me of Transformers the last night with the secret society that kept the
Yeah.
existence of Transformers a secret for centuries, man. I
Yeah.
don't know why, but it's just such a 90s post Oliver Stone's JFK moment where
Yes. Yes.
that's exactly what it is. Yeah,
Catering to
right.
conspiracy theories,
Yeah,
catering to
conspiracy
counter
theories.
narratives,
Yeah,
catering to counter narratives and conspiracy theories. Or the history, remember it in school. If you remember that and you think that is true, you're an idiot. This is the truth. That stuff.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
But
yeah.
it's so 90s. What I mean? Oh, you really want to know what about Area 51?
Right,
Ah,
right,
this
right.
is that, right?
Aliens and JFK as
Yeah, all the
yeah.
bullshit. Yeah, all the bullshit.
Yeah. They do say aliens, though. They do say Area
Yes.
51, and I'm like,
Yeah.
but a realistic action movie, though. Like, what?
Yeah.
Anyway, right? We get this really nice all is lost moment where John decides to give up on the mission and he wants to leave
Right.
the island. Stanley is actually forced to take action for once in
Right.
a great moment where Paxton saying,
With the
"Oh,
gun.
he took all you. Oh, he has a gun. What do you have? A
Right.
fucking water pistol?" Like
Right.
that's a great moment actually.
And he tell him, I like little dumb bullshit like that where he tell him the safety off and he check and then he,
Yeah,
yeah, that's
yeah.
a funny moment.
Now, one thing though that I honestly forgot about the movie, in the convo where Stanley trying to apprehend John, is that John didn't even know about the missiles though, about the
Right,
rockets. Sorry,
right,
he was just told, oh, terrorists in Alcatraz must stop them. He didn't even know anything about the missiles, about the rockets. Sorry, because he could have warned his daughter back then. Again, Womack is such a dick, right?
yeah,
Um, but yeah, basically after realizing that there's literally no way out of the island as long as Hummel's men are there, he reluctantly continues the mission, right? And it's that whole because there's a little shootout that takes place, right? Basically, I love this moment where Stanley gets pissed that John wants to go to the morgue, right? And this line in particular, right? I won't lie, like out of the many quotables in this movie, this was one that always stuck to me, right? 'Cause so basically, yeah, Stanley's all like, "Why are we going to the mall? Blah blah. Blah. I don't want to go to the mall. Blah blah blah." And then John aims his gun at him and says, "Don't tempt me. We are going to the morgue." I just love that line. I love how calm he said it. I love
yeah,
how it's like, "Yeah, I have a gun. What you have? You have nothing, John. So shut
yeah,
up. Follow me." I just love that. I just think back and forth as a whole between Stanley and John. I totally love John. There's a great moment though where well, this is actually one of the most iconic moments in the movie where John asks, "You sure you're ready for this?" And Stanley says, "I'll do my best."
right,
Your best? Losers always whine about their best. Here's the funny part about this line, right? In the
Winners.
trailers, they always stop at that point.
okay,
Always stop at that point. Losers always whine about their best. It's when you see the full movie and then you hear
Hmm.
winners go home and fuck the prom king. It's like,
right,
It was at
oh,
that moment I was like,
oh,
what?
yeah,
What the
oh,
hell?
okay. And
What?
yeah, I imagine if we saw this in a cinema, people would have lost their minds.
yeah,
It's just so well delivered, though, and it's Sean Connery telling him that though.
yeah,
But is the comeback that I love is one of those things you forget. Like
yeah.
I wouldn't like Nick come with a real nice comeback. Carla was the prom queen. I was like, nice,
It's so,
nice. I
it's
love
so
that.
good.
Yes.
You're laughing. I'm laughing at on the one end you're laughing how goddamn corny the whole thing is, but at the same time it's like, well, the sheer confidence and audacity of the people that are writing this. Like,
Yeah.
look, it's the 90s, you can get away with that bullshit. Let's go. Hilarious.
Agreed. Yeah. It is such a 90s line though, but it works in my opinion.
I kind of looked at that as like, oh, holy hell. I mean, really? So, yeah, that was my interpretation.
Yeah, like it's crass, but it's good crass. It's good crass, right?
Yeah.
Um, yeah. So John's first kill in the movie is so silly, and I love it regardless. That's when he threw the knife, and you see this POV shot of it before it stick the slits through the neck, and I mean, it's the 90s, so it's not like we literally were going to see the POV shot of the knife go directly through. But let's love how he just cut it at the right time to just straight go through. Like, okay, like, all right, no. Kind of how I looked at it is sort of like a R-rated version of something that James Bond would do, throw the knife and the sticks. It was like that. Okay. Um, so Stanley proceeds to remove the guidance chips from the 12 missiles because there's these guidance chips, right? Of course, in the process, he has to remove the pearls that in the missiles as well, right? And this is memorable moment, like so memorable, right? This is right after this shootout scene that takes place in the same place, right? Where Stanley's trying to disable one of the rockets, and he's just getting distracted by this foot just being twitched, like this dead soldier is twitching, right?
Right.
And like as he spars or as he early spars out that Stanley does, right? So little interesting story behind that, right? So first time I ever saw the trailer for this movie, right? I remember it's local TV, and you know how conservative local TV is, right? So basically, he's talking about how how uneventful his life is, how he drives a beige Volvo, and all that kind of stuff. But what he's dealing with is one of the deadliest things in the world. So it comes to freaking slack, right? I never forget hearing freaking slack for the first time on TV. Like, what?
I know what
You
it
know what I
is.
mean? You know what I mean? And you're thinking, oh, well, like I say, Ricardo, you're thinking they just probably redub it, whatever it is for TV, right?
Right.
But just hearing, I honestly never heard frigging on
Right.
local TV.
On
in my
TV?
life.
It's
And then when you actually see the movie, it's like, oh,
Yeah.
he actually did say friggin'. They're like, oh,
Right.
wow, okay,
Yeah.
yeah.
But the
And
thing is,
that was all over the marketing for this that
it's one
moment.
it's one of the classic nerd has its moments that has to be aggressive because you're an idiot and I mean, you're in my playhouse now. So shut up, Sean Connery. You don't know what you're talking about. This is my moment, so I have to insult you for no good reason.
Yeah.
That's what it
It's
is.
the over the top insult.
Right.
to make it.
It's like yeah. You that means you practice that shit in that mirror. That's basically what that comes across like. That's how it.
Yeah, definitely. But yeah, it is one of the most memorable lines or moments I was seeing in that whole movie, right? We get an actually like really kick-ass action scene that takes place in this sort of underground railroad kind of scenario,
Yes.
that kind of set piece thing.
Right.
But yeah, just how it's all put together. It has a bit of a Indiana Jones feel to it, you know what I mean, with them in these sort of contraption as it's moving across and trying to avoid bad guys, and you get a great moment where you see Stanley actually has his first kill, like he actually kills someone for the first time in the movie.
Right.
I know it kind of reminds me of ironically Face Off, right? When he does that final shoot, he's like, die, you die, that blow, 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 and you have to stress on every single bullet that comes out the chamber. It does that, right? But yeah, basically, so afterwards now, they have three more rockets to find, right? And Hummel, he's just as an act of desperation, pulls one of the terrorists, sorry, one of the captives out basically and threatens to kill him, right? And John is like, all right, well, I will stall him, you do your thing, right? And while Stanley's doing this thing, these soldiers come and basically beat him, right? And I still find it to this day, it's kind of ironic, like, oh, you know what I mean? You're lucky Hummel wants you alive, right? And then one of the black soldiers, not Tony or Bucky, says, because I'll take pleasure in gutting you, boy. You know what I mean? But while all this is going on now, John himself, this is the moment where John actually confronts Hummel and calls about all this bullshit, right? He talks about all of a while, and I mean, just different quotes and all that kind of stuff, right? I mean, what is by there's something must be patriotism. The tree of liberty must be refreshed or something along the line with the bloody Patriots, something along that line, though. I just love that whole back and forth thing where, yeah, like I think you're fucking crazy, Jay. That's what John tells Hummel, right? I just like that moment. It's that confrontation moment,
It's
like
literature
just kind
versus
of tell the
literature.
audience, as noble as he coming across, he's still kind of crazy, or he's still on shit, That's what I like about that moment. Yeah. But both of them basically get apprehended and they thrown into a cell. I still find, like, from a narrative perspective, like, why won't you kill them? They just kind of, they could have literally just shoot them right there. But no, let's just put them in a
Plot
cell,
arm.
right?
Plot arm.
No, I mean, you have some villains who want you to see.
Well, I mean, okay. So the only defense of that would be that, remember, he didn't want to kill nobody.
Right.
They kind of said
okay,
that.
cool. Yeah.
He didn't want to kill nobody, and they kind of said that from earlier because of what happened in the bathroom. So that's the only reason. Like, it's like, all right, well, I want to kill you, and just to teach people a lesson, kind of thing. Well,
right, but you have other, like, your teammates, like, quick to kill people.
Yeah, that was a real
just
little
have
unhinged.
trigger fingers,
Right.
Yeah. And now we get the true Nicolas Cage moment, though. I love how it starts up with him just in the cell, just talking to himself. I'll take pleasure in gutting you, boy. And he just repeated, I'll take pleasure in gutting you, boy. I love that. And I love how, like, John is just like, all right, you just keep talking shit. I just going to just free myself, right? And then we get that iconic moment. I love how it just builds up the with style. He's like, all right, so you make your way through here, you do all this, da 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 to escape. So how in the name of Zeus's butthole did you get out of your cell?
Yeah.
And it's one of those moments where, you know what I mean? Because the audience wondering how this guy really do all this in the first place, right? But again, it's one of those Nicolas Cage moments. It's something that only he could see. And I feel like in retrospect, he probably improvised moments. That whole moment with him in the cell, I feel was improvised. Like him just talking to himself and the Zeus's bottle thing. I think all that was improvised, right? But yeah, it is one of my favorite moments, that whole Zeus's butthole moment, right? I just love that. It's so pure Nicolas Cage, in my opinion. Any thoughts on that whole moment?
Oh no, that's the I'm Castor Troy moment.
Right.
I am Castor Troy. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's so simple the way how he does it, how he frees himself, but that's part of the joke, right? But I love it. Right, so the military's like, here's what, right? We had to launch this attack. We have no choice. We have the commander guy who does his speech for the American flag. I made the mistake earlier that it was Anderson who did it, but actually it's someone else who does his speech in front of the flag, right? I was like, yeah, that's from Armageddon, Pearl Harbor, do USA all the way, right? And Hummel now, because he just sick and tired of how slow the FBI moving, orders he launch the two rockets, right? He sends out one, he aims it at this football stadium, but something weird happens because at the last minute now, he just redirects the rocket now and it goes directly into the ocean, right? And everybody else on Hummel's team is like, well, what the hell going on, right? And then we get the presidential speech, right? Which again happens in both Armageddon and Pearl Harbor, right? But in this show in particular, it works, right? It gives the climax of the film gravitas, right? That's what I like about it, right? And I like how it's not just about the lives of everyone in San Francisco, but it's about America, right? America all the way, right? But no lie, it's a powerful scene. You know what I mean? You have that shot of the soldiers running towards the F-18, and it looks so incredibly epic because it's in slow-mo. But yes, deep down secretly, I just love that scene so much. It is so derivative, but I love it, right? And it's so funny too because it's not really a speech, though. He just kind of talking to his high-ups and saying, sorry, not to his high-ups, there's people in the Oval Office and just kind of saying, well, yeah, we kind of have to do it. So, yeah, order the strike. That's what it was. But it wasn't like a speech to the nation, basically, right? But it still made for a really, really great moment in the film, in my opinion, right? So afterwards, like I said before, Hummel's team starts to break apart. You see Tony Todd, you see Bokeem Woodbine, you see that one white guy, I forget his name, who have like these creepy eyes. And they're just kind of talking about like, what are you doing? Why you redirect your rocket there? And basically it's like, it's like Frank Hummel saying, I don't want to kill any people, right? And points for Tony Dread because he basically just speak for everybody where he's like, where's the effing money, right? And he's like, well, there's no fucking money, right? For the more and Tony dropped a real great line. Like it's so crass and so selfish, but it makes so much sense. From the moment we took hostages, we became mercenaries. And mercenaries get paid. I want my fucking money.
Yeah.
I love that shit. And it's so audacious how he delivered it to her.
I would
Especially
say
like
that's a
earlier when he
line.
says, you're treating us like you're being played as a fool, you know what I mean? Like just how he's stressing on these lines, you know what I mean? But I will I know when he dropped that mercenary line, I was like, yes, this is the mindset. Like this is the mindset everybody who is working under Hummel must have had when they signed up for this in the first place. I totally agree with him, no matter how selfish it all is, right?
Right.
And then now, well, we get another Mexican standoff, right? And you see, well, Hummel's, well, his basically his comrade in arms. I do this nice little thing where you think he's going to betray Hummel, but then he fires it at someone else, and there's this shootout. And at the time, though, where you're seeing Stanley and John kind of observing everything, and then they come in and start to shoot people up too, right? But yeah, in the process, Hummel is shot to death. But before he dies, he tells, well, Stanley and John where the last rocket is at the lower lighthouse, right? So Stanley heads off and John's trying to kill everybody else, right? So remember what I said earlier about the whole vinyl collection stuff, right? So it comes up where Tony Todd, he stumbles on this Stanley, right? Disarming the rocket, right? And again, like, okay, the lines themselves, I won't lie, is real cringe. But again, Nicolas Cage, the way how he delivers it, right? So, are you a fan of? We asked him if he likes Elton John's Rocket Man. And it's how Tony says, "I don't like that soft ass shit." Well, I only brought it up because it's you. You're the Rocket Man.
Yeah.
That is such a cringy
Yeah.
series of lines, though. But because it's Nicolas Cage and because Stanley's just a nerd anyway, it just works. And the payoff is worth it, Dread, right? Where he activates the rocket and it just hits him and he bursts through the window. I love that, right? But right before all that stuff, though, he actually kind of disarms the rocket, right? But there's a moment where one of the pearls rolls out. And you see it all over the marketing for this. You have that shot where you just see Stanley just reach over and grab it right before it falls over the lighthouse, right? So he has it on him, right?
So yes, he take with that. But what do you see with that? Why you just let it go? Like you could have just let it go. It wouldn't have been a big issue.
In hindsight, I don't know.
Because
They mentioned it's like you want to poison the water and fish would have died.
I didn't get that, no, right? Because they just say, look, if one or two explode, that's if you and I will die, like right here, but like, it won't be a big deal. Because he does destroy it later, so it's like, well, okay.
Yeah. That's true. But you actually do remember that shot, right? For better or for worse.
Right.
And just last thing on Tony, boy, the man getting peeled, boy, like.
Yeah, no?
Like you forget that kid. Just think, he falls into the water. Oh no, he goes through a pole. And like,
that's a pretty good costume. Well, what do you call it? Special effects stuff now. On that, because he falls, they do the camera cut to the pole, and then the guy hanging, and I'm watching it, I was like, well, this is actually really looking good though. Like,
yeah.
Really impressive.
It's not overly bloody or graphic. But
yeah, exactly. Just simple.
You feel it, yeah. Right, so John takes on two soldiers, while he shoot out all that kind of stuff. The crazy eye guy hunting down Stanley. He actually finds him. They duke it out. Process. Stanley actually shoves the pearls that fell out earlier into his mouth, though, and kills him instantly. And in the process of that, Stanley is poisoned, and he sticks the needle into his heart.
Right, yeah,
but unfortunately, this is like about a minute before the thermal launch. So, like at the corner of his eye, he sees the F-18s coming, and then remembers what Anderson said about launching green flares and wait for the cavalry, right?
Yeah.
And then we get arguably the film's most iconic shot. This is Stanley just there, the silhouette of him holding
we get a couple of Jesus poses.
Yes.
This is my notes.
Was Jesus pose, and then him hold up the flares. He was like, okay, you do it again. But that shot in particular with him holding the flares with the silhouette is so awesome. Like it real hard. And what make it even better though?
sequence Nick the Messiah.
You know?
Right.
Yeah. And what make it even more iconic though, like I remember the first time seeing it, and I literally was at the edge of my seat at that point, Dread. So right when he lifted his arms up in the air with the flares, that's when homie in the one of the F-18s ended up dropping one of the missiles, and it blows up, and they just get that sweet shot though of the explosion, and you just see the F-18 flying across to the camera.
Yeah.
Just such a great scene, Dread. That's still one of the best looking shots like ever in my
Listen,
opinion.
if
I
you
love
want to
that.
if you want to glorify the military, go with Michael Bay. Can't go wrong.
You know? Yeah, yeah.
As bad as make the army look good.
He does, right?
Yeah.
So wrapping up now, right? So the force of the explosion sends Stanley
Right.
crashing into the water. John jumps in to save him, and well, basically they shake hands, and I just love this little moment where Stanley tells John, if you go to this hotel room, there's this Bible and there's $200 if you wanna, just get back on your feet now. And I like that. So he'll eventually use that and reunite with his daughter, which is nice, right? And then he feeds us some information too, and he says, well, this particular pew in this church in Kansas, there's something there waiting for you, and I like that. You know what I mean? And he leaves. I
Right.
love how when the FBI people come, well, again, the sub team of lies, you know what I mean? Well, Stanley lies and says, well, John died. He was vaporized, right? Yeah, I mean, in the turbo attack, he was vaporized, right? That was a nice moment, right? And you know what I mean? As weird as the final scene is, the final shot basically with Stanley and Carla, who are now married. You know what I
Right.
mean? Just well, Stanley running out to this church with the microfilm and all that kind of stuff. I like it. I think it's a really nice way to end the film off. Like I said earlier, it feels like, you know what I mean, like they're just so excited to be married, and well, before we go on that honeymoon, let me just do this one crazy thing there, because what I mean, we just just on a high right now, right? So yeah, and you just get that last line we talk about. You really want to know who killed JFK? You know what I mean? And then the car drives off. And last thing last though, it's dedicated to the late Don Simpson, right?
Right. He died. Yeah.
Who
This is his last
actually
movie.
died during the movie's production. I didn't
Right.
even know
Yeah.
that. The funny thing is, like right now, I'm reading this Oliver Stone biopic, right? Listen to the audiobook, sorry. And in between that, he mentions, well, yeah, he actually died in his bathroom, like on the toilet, due to this drug overdose threat. I
Oh, really?
believe it
Okay.
was that. Yeah.
I know it's
Sweet
all that.
Lord.
Yeah.
Yeah, like I didn't
I,
even
I,
know it was
yeah.
drugs that he was
Okay.
on, but I was like, wow, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, like actually Don was on that shit for like years, right? Like
Wow.
even back in Beverly Hills Cop days, like in his 80s,
Well, it's
yeah,
the
he
80s.
was
So.
on that. Yeah. So yeah.
Well, it was the 80s, so that was
Yeah,
like
it was. And Oliver himself, confessed that yeah, he was on that too, but he get over, you know what I mean, as soon as he started his family, right? But that's another story for another day. So in closing, just to answer the question, if it's Michael Bay's best movie, yes, it is, in my opinion.
okay.
I've actually watched all of his films, and I could attest to this. Yes, it is his best film. That's not saying that it is some kind of grand masterpiece and whatnot, right? But for me, what makes it work, though, and yeah, part of the reason why I love this show so much is the nostalgia. I remember when the trailers came out. I remember how excited I was to see it, even though I was too young to see it, and then just being able to see it on local TV. I was so excited, and from USC and onward, sorry, just seeking out this film, right? For me, it came out at just the right time because this was at the heyday of 90s action cinema, right? So
Yeah.
if you're looking at a pure example of just how great 90s action cinema was, yeah, this is it, right? But really the key to to the movie's appeal and why this movie works is the leads themselves, Nicolas Cage and Sean Connery Dread. You have a 60-year-old convict and a lab rat Dread, the
Yeah.
most unlikeliest of action
Yeah.
heroes Dread,
Yeah.
and they make it work.
Good odd couple dynamic. That
Yeah,
works. Yeah.
and I mean Nicolas Cage himself. Cause remember, this is coming right after his Oscar win for Leaving
Right.
Las Vegas, right?
Right. Right.
So it was just hit after hit, like right. It was Rock, then it was Face Off, another one
Right.
of my favorite '90s action movies. Then
Yep.
it was Con Air, which I don't
Right.
like as much because of how dumb it is, but
Yeah.
still as
I
shut
will
your
take
breed
some
off
Connie.
action
Konya,
movies. It works.
A Dex character riddled movie. Like
Huh? Yeah.
it's
Like you
shocking how
forget
many
Dave Chappelle in it, you
Dave
forget
Chappelle was in it.
yeah,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
forget
Yeah.
John Malkovich in it too, you know what I mean? You have that put the money back in the box to be that famous line, you know what I mean? But yeah, dude, like it proved that yeah, Oscar winners could star in action movies too and
Right,
kill it.
right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Yeah, you know what I mean? But yeah, it's really those two leads that make it work too. And I like the fact that Sean is going back to his action roots to be, well, because for me, like I wouldn't say I haven't seen all of his films, right? But I'm familiar with like the stuff that he did in the 90s up till when he retired, right? And I just still think it's really amazing that he was in this big budget summer blockbuster action movie, right? And he
yeah,
was able to appeal to people who were too young to even know that he was James Bond, right? So
right.
it looks like that. I thought that Ed Harris was such a fantastic villain, just how they made him so I don't want to say sympathetic again, Jay, but just you understand exactly where he's coming from.
Yeah,
Even
yeah,
though I like that even near the end before he dies, he kind of drops the ball at times. He's not too sure about what's going on. You know what I mean? He makes mistakes, right? But it's like, no, I just don't want to do this. I love
yeah.
that, right? Um, but yeah, I mean, just includes, right? So no, it's not like the greatest movie of all time. No, no, no. But I would say it is one of the best action movies of the 90s, one of the best action movies ever, in my opinion. And just a pure example of why the 90s was one of the best eras in terms of just big budget filmmaking, in my opinion. And yeah, just compared to everything else that Michael Bay did afterwards, like I know, yes, times change and we had better cameras and more technology and
Right,
more visual effects and blah blah blah. But just how fairly to the point the story was, and it wasn't like the Michael Bay film, right? But it just let the story speak for itself. Basically, I love that. So before he was let off his leash and he did stuff like Armageddon and whatnot. You know what I mean?
right,
But yeah, but here this was Michael Bay on top form in my opinion. This is
right.
one that I'll go back to for years to come, and I need to get this in my Blu-ray collection as soon as. So very light 4.5 out of 5. That's my rating for this. I love this movie. I love it. I love it. I love it. I had so much fun recapping this movie, and yeah, you know what I mean. Like I don't know if we will ever get that next Michael Bay, great film. You know what I mean? Like something that really, like elevate the genre itself. I don't know. And it's kind of weird that with the amount of years, the close to 2-3 decades that he doing this, we haven't really gotten that. But yeah, man, for better for worse, yeah, I will say that yes, The Rock is his best movie.
Right.
Tracy, last thoughts and rated and why you don't like the film as a whole.
Listen, I legitimately let's start with the rating on this. Okay, will give this a vacillating between a 2.5 and a 3. Only because of
Okay.
some of the reasons that you've said in terms of like the idea of the two main characters and how they operate off of each other. There are some actors who are able to pull off certain lines or certain pieces of dialogue. Like I think of Heath Ledger, even like some of his stuff in Dark Knight. You can only I feel like I could look at that and be like, that was designed for Heath in mind in retrospect.
Right.
That being said, in terms of where I sit with Michael, and this leads into how I feel about this film, Michael's movies and stuff worked exceptionally well for me in the 90s, early 2000s, but not every one of his films. And this one falls into the not every one of his films. Now, it's weird because I still have a soft spot for Armageddon. I mean, even to the point where Bruce Willis blows himself up and sees his daughter getting married and the whole flashing of the past and the future and all that kind of stuff. Like, yeah, I still have a soft spot for that film
That,
because
that
at the
that's
end
all
of the
right though.
day,
That's okay.
you
That's
know,
okay.
like for me, my logic there is that at the end of the day, the crux of that, with all the dramatics and everything involved, is that this is a single father who is trying to do right by his daughter, and if that means saving the world, he'll do it. Okay,
Right.
fine. Um, but with this, I mean, I'm just looking back at some of my notes that I have there. It's like I remember sitting down and scribbling, how many times can they say "stand fast, stand fast, stand fast"? That whole freeze, Mister. There's things about the dialogue that really annoyed me. There are things about, again, the Bayism. So after the car crash and that whole swirling of the camera to actually reveal Nicolas Cage, and then I went and I checked the date in terms of when this movie came out. This came out in 1996, so Bad Boys had come out in 1995, which means he had already perfected that whole reveal of the characters, because like when Martin and Will rise after doing some explosion in
after
Florida.
they're running scene basically.
Yeah, the telephoto shot now. The scanning, the shot, with the telephoto lens to make everything all circly and weird.
So
they did that in this film.
So I'm like, it's not. Here's my thing. The one line that I have here at the top of it is, it's Die Hard 2 but with a better general.
Right.
And it's Die Hard 2 with a better general. And I had already spoken to the idea of we should have had this general in Die Hard. But for me, it feels like, looking back at some of the jokes and some of the lines that they use inside there, like even the idea of the queer hairdresser who's lines, the stylist,
which is a 90s thing that
another dumb 90s thing that need to be.
There's like, I mean, the heights for me with these kinds of movies is that you will eventually hear directors and castmates and stuff reviewing or doing like a Vanity Fair or a Hollywood Reporter interview or something, and they will come back and say, yeah, I really shouldn't have written those lines. I really should. I'm like, okay, I accept that you have growth, but it's so 90s, and not necessarily in a fun way, the way how Lethal Weapon was 90s, and I still
Lethal Weapon 3, right? Yeah. We are gonna talk about that fourth one. Sorry.
No, we never talk about that one. Although there is a running joke that we still do in our house, but that's another story. But I really wanted to like it, and I know that's going to probably be the mirror to the next conversation that we're going to have, but I really wanted to like it. But I sat there and I watched this thing because, again, this was one of those movies. I remember the poster for it. I remember stuff associated with it, but I don't think I ever actually, I have no memory of sitting down to watch it. So coming into the review, I said, let me take it in. And having all the other Michaelisms, Bayisms before, I just looked at it and I was like, I was telling Matthew, I want my money back. So I'm hearing you guys talk about it with the excitement level of it. I feel like, okay, maybe I will go back at some point in time in my existence and go back to it. But for now, I'm giving it a 2.53 for me.
Right.
Okay. I like that we have some conflicting views about the film. You know what I mean? But yeah, Ricardo, close it off. Final thoughts and rating.
It's a film that it's unpolished. It doesn't hold up it doesn't hold up as well as it did in my head. But I still had some fun with it. Given that it's like, oh yeah, I remember it did this and did that, and this was pretty fun and cool. But it's so a bunch of it's really a lot of 90s stuff that sorry to say that has some of the worst shelf life. But ultimately it's a film I like. I mean, is it Michael Bay's best film? Yeah. I suppose, right?
And to be fair, guys, this really isn't saying a lot.
Exactly.
It's not like, this is like Quentin Tarantino's or Steven Spielberg's best. It's Michael Bay, guys. So yeah.
Right. So, and it's in my head, I was like, well, is Michael Bay's best in a sense? And I suppose Pain and Gain is the only one I kind of compare it in terms of close to my favorites in terms of his films. And it does have a lot of cool stuff in it. That was something that catered to my 10-year-old self, and it told its story for what it was, and I had fun with it, especially that last action sequence, run action sequence. I really enjoyed for what it was. Yeah, 6 out of 10, 7 out of 10 maybe. Yeah, around that. Pretty good. I like it.
Okay, nice. So yes, folks, those were our thoughts on The Rock, right? Like I say, I don't know if he will get any film that afterwards in his career that we could say is the best Michael Bay movie ever. But at the moment, it's this one. So yeah, I mean, if you've seen it, feel free to let us know what you thought about it. If you think it's trash, or you think all Michael Bay movies are trash, comment below. Or if you just think that the movie is literally the best film he's ever made, yeah, I mean, drop a comment and let us know what you thought about The Rock.
Yeah.
Hey, this is Matthew Bailey, and I hope you've enjoyed this segment of the BS Beats and Bailey podcast. If you'd like to hear the full episode, hit up my link tree. On the other side of my head are 2 videos you can check out. Like this video if you like it, feel free to subscribe and hit the bell as well. Thanks for listening, and until the next one, take care, peace.